Hello, and welcome to my very first video on the human longevity industry. In fact, this is the very first video that I've ever made. So, however it turns out, you should be nice to me. I recently became interested in the longevity industry after seeing this article posted on Reddit. The rich are pouring millions into life extension research, but does it have any ethical value? I think the article brings up some interesting points, but it mostly reminded me that this is a thing. The billionaires think that they can live forever by throwing money at the issue of their own mortality. Are they right? I'm going to touch on some of the ethics that this article brings up later in the video, but for now, I'm just going to say I don't think the ethics of this are very cut and dry. As fun as it is to shit on billionaires, and I'll probably do a little bit of that in this video too, I mostly want to focus on the viability of the technology of some of these companies. Are they really trying to cure aging? Do they really want to live forever? Or do they just want to live longer or make living into your old age more comfortable? I think the last two sound more reasonable and probably the easiest for most people to swallow. After doing some research on this topic, I discovered there's a wide range of different kinds of people involved in the longevity industry. This company, called Retro Biosciences, for example, is seeking to expand the human lifespan by 10 healthy years, while there are companies like Altos Labs who believe with careful modulation of their technology, aging could be completely reversed. And then, of course, there's the weird blood stuff that fits somewhere in between. I'll get to that later. Before I really get into the main topics of this video, I thought it'd be fun to delve into the history of human interest in immortality. Because believe it or not, people have been trying to live forever. One of, if not the oldest story ever recorded, the Epic of Gilgamesh, is about this dude's journey to find the secret to eternal life. Now, obviously, I can't talk about everybody who's ever wanted to live forever. That list would be way too long. That list probably doesn't even exist. I mean, I've never told anybody whether I want to live forever or not. Nobody's asked me. So whoever has tried to make this list has at least forgot to ask one person, probably forgot to ask a bunch more. Just saying. I'm for real. They asked everybody who's ever lived before. Yeah, right. And who's to say whether everybody that answered was even telling the truth? Anyway, I picked out a couple of fun characters from across history who have wanted to live forever. One you might recognize is the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I had to look it up. He apparently ruled in the 3rd century BC. The article I found about him says the emperor himself certainly believed that he would be able to both live and reign forever, and constantly sought elixirs that would guarantee eternal life. He was willing to believe the tales of magicians and also alchemists to a remarkable extent. You might also know this guy from the Terracotta Army. He built to guard his tomb in the afterlife. I think he thought he needed a bunch of treasure and dudes that looked like they should be holding swords in order to have an eternal afterlife. I don't know, this Khan Academy article about it wasn't very clear. I did think it was a little funny that he basically started drinking mercury to help him live longer, which led to him dying at 49. Elizabeth Bathory is another interesting person. She used to bathe in the blood of virgins because she thought it would make her younger. I like this National Geographic article about it. It says, throughout Central Europe, 16th century noblewoman Elizabeth Bathory is infamous for torture and murder. But was she really as evil as history tells? But then, if you scroll up, it says, irretrievably mired in myth and speculation, Elizabeth Bathory, also known as the Blood Countess, is said to be the most prolific female serial killer to date, allegedly torturing and murdering hundreds of young women in the 16th and 17th century. So I don't know. Even if there's some reports out there saying she's not as bad as the worst reports say, I think it's safe to say she's pretty evil. Evil enough. This Washington Post article, which is where I found a lot of these people, also mentioned that the Pope in 1492, who was named Pope Innocent VIII, had injected himself with the blood of children. I don't know, it doesn't sound that innocent to me. At the same time, a guy named Marsilio Ficino, who was a polymath, is apparently a word for a person of wide-ranging knowledge and learning. He told the elderly that they should suck the blood of the young like leeches to turn back their biological clock. Should that be too gross, Ficino advised mixing the blood with hot water and sugar. Okay. They do clarify here at the bottom that Innocent died along with his young blood donors. This isn't the last time we'll talk about the blood of the young, by the way. It seems to be a theme amongst these live forever types. They're always trying to drink kids' blood. All right, I'll mention a few more modern people before we get into some of the companies. There's Charles Edouard Brown Séquard, who was apparently one of the most respected physicians of his time, which was the mid-1800s. He pioneered a lot of ideas in neuroscience and used to inject himself with, I guess, semen from pig and dog testicles, which apparently made him feel 30 years younger. Obviously, that was a little bit gross, but it did kind of work, and it inspired a lot of ideas in endocrinology we still use today. He also inspired Dr. Sergei Voronoff, who was known in his time as the monkey gland expert. So you might see where this is going. Dr. Voronov believed that human aging could be halted or even reversed by transplanting monkey testicles into people. And he did that at least 2,000 times, according to this and other reports. It was pretty doubtful that sewing monkey testicles onto old guys' scrotums really did much back then. Also, Voronov died at 85, so he probably wasn't quite the trailblazer that he thought he was. Alright, let's look into some of these companies, shall we? The company Bezos is most commonly associated with backing is called Altos Labs, which I mentioned earlier in this video. Although many articles on the company seem to demonize it and call it controversial, at least in their titles, as far as I can tell, the biggest controversy is just that Jeff Bezos is involved. People assume he has evil intentions. Altos' mission is to restore cell health and resilience through cellular rejuvenation programming to reverse disease, injury, and the disabilities that can occur throughout life. Sounds pretty good to me. Altos is designed to integrate the best features of academia and industry. From academia, the freedom to pursue the most challenging problems in biology, and from industry, the focus on a shared mission, ability to foster deep collaborations, and the passion and commitment to transform science into medicine. Okay, so on first look, this seems like a pretty interesting venture, and I like this approach. Altos has some other big names attached, like Russian-Israeli tech billionaire Yuri Milner. Their chief scientist and co-founder, Rick Klausner, is the former head of the U.S. National Cancer Institute, while the chief executive, Al Barron, left a role at GSK that paid more than $8 million a year. But although many of these scientists involved with Altos have done their own research in longevity, I haven't been able to find any data that Altos themselves have put out yet. Based on articles I've read, like this one from the MIT Technology Review, it seems like the science behind it is based on Yamanaka factors. If you don't know, Yamanaka, who is also part of the Altos scientific board, discovered that with the addition of just 4 proteins, now called Yamanaka factors, cells can be instructed to revert to primitive state, the properties of embryonic stem cells. So Yamanaka was able to take cells that had already decided they wanted to be skin cells, for example, and instruct them to forget that they wanted to be part of the skin and change back into something similar to the kind of cells they were when they were first made by your body. Mr. Belmonte then took this research further in 2016. He applied these factors to entire living mice and published generally positive results in the scientific publication Cell. So to wildly oversimplify all of this research, while Yamanaka was able to turn skin cells into stem cells, Belmonte was allegedly able to use the same ideas, take old and sick mice, and make them young again. I tried to find a video or a picture of the mice, but I wasn't able to, which is kind of frustrating because it sounds like the journalist who wrote this other MIT Technology Review article about him, Erika Hayasaki, actually got to see them. So she said she saw a mouse with progeria, and then that same mouse was lively and active after being treated with the age reversal mixture. We have a quote from Belmonte where he says, "It completely rejuvenates," Belmonte tells me with a mischievous grin. If you look inside, obviously all the organs, all the cells are younger. Okay, maybe it's better that Erica was the one interfacing with the mischievous scientist trying to cure death. I think I'm fine reading about it for now. Now, I want to move on, but an important takeaway here is that this kind of research is still in its infancy. It says in the first MIT research article, results of such mouse experiments, while tantalizing, were also frightening. Depending on how much reprogramming occurred, some mice developed ugly embryonic tumors called teratomas, even as others showed signs that their tissues had become younger. Another scientist basically describes it as, if you go too far and fully turn a cell into a stem cell, it totally forgets what kind of cell it was supposed to be, and just becomes a cell that can't do much of anything, or it'll just become cancer. Even Belmonte has metered expectations for his own technology. As he sees it, there's no reason to believe that we can't extend human lifespan by another 30 to 50 years, but he doesn't see it as the key to immortality. I guess this is partially based on the fact that his breakthrough mice really only lived 30% longer than their litter mates. It seems based on the company's mission statement that they're more focused on trying to apply the technology for diseases, injuries, and disabilities, which could be good. I can see how a while from now this could really help a lot of people, ease the burden of disease, hopefully help people live longer, healthier lives. Other similar companies like Google-backed California Life Company, more commonly referred to as Calico, and another Bezos-backed company, Unity Biotechnology, are similarly self-aware. Calico is focused on patient benefit and are actively developing compounds to target specific ailments like cancer, neurological diseases, and tissue homeostasis and repair. Unity develops therapeutics to slow, halt, or reverse diseases of aging by flushing senescent cells from the body. Ned David, the co-founder, believes the drug could vaporize a third of human diseases in the developed world.
Cellular senescence is the accumulation of cells in our bodies as we age that no longer divide. And when cells do this, we call them senescent cells.
So the company was featured in a CNBC video on the topic in 2021, where they asked experts, including the Unity CEO, what their thoughts on living forever were.
Is Unity trying to help people live forever? First, we don't know how. And even if there were a way, that's not the business we're in. Do I think that the reason that we live and operate near Silicon Valley has something to do with this idea that the Silicon Valley powerful want to live a long time? That is an easy and sort of entertaining idea. I've never gotten an email from one of those people asking, actually, that's not true. I did get one, but he's not an investor, okay?
There are two guys that I came across in my research that crossed my mind when I heard him say this. So the first is David Asprey, who I learned about from this CNBC video.
I, right now, am expecting to live to about 180. I think that's very achievable, assuming a truck doesn't hit me. So why wouldn't we disrupt medicine? Because frankly, medicine has failed us.
I didn't look too deeply into him or his book, but based on this statement from the book synopsis, believes he can live very long or forever through diet, sleep, light, exercise, and powerful hacks like ozone therapy, and also the fact that it looks like he's basically a fitness and wellness author. I'm willing to bet he doesn't actually know the secret to living forever, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I guess I'll have to buy the book and find out. The other is Peter Thiel, who is an investor in Unity and therefore probably also wasn't the person emailing Unity. You might recognize him as the co-founder of PayPal or Palantir, or as the first outside investor in Facebook.
We're going to start you off with a $500,000 investment.
And he definitely wants to live forever.
I think most of us deal with aging, deal with death through a combination of acceptance and denial. It's going to happen to us, nothing we can do about it. Denial, it's going to happen to other people, it's never going to happen to me. And this sort of schizophrenic attitude, I think, is sort of very enervating. And instead of acceptance or denial, I think we should be fighting it.
See, first off, I didn't even know there was a denial option. Like, that's just something that happens to other people. That was an interview where Peter Thiel was basically asked if he was excited about innovations in AI or healthcare. And to be fair, I did take the clip a little bit out of context.
There are a lot of sick people, there are a lot of people who are suffering from all sorts of medical ailments, and I think we should work much harder to cure them.
But Peter Thiel is actually one of the only billionaires I could find going on record saying they basically want to live forever, and he didn't even really outright say that here. And actually, one of the foundations that Thiel's involved in, called the Methuselah Foundation, who strive to make 90 the new 50 by 2030, invest a lot of money into companies who are each trying to tackle different aspects of the aging problem. A lot of them look really cool and like they're genuinely trying to help everyone live longer and healthier lives. It seems like even the most outspoken advocates for reversing aging still acknowledge how huge of an uphill battle this is. And so what if somebody like Peter Thiel wants to live forever? Which he does. He signed up with Alcor, that life extension foundation that freezes your dead body like Walt Disney's head. Alright, but so what if he wants to live forever? It's not hurting anyone or anything, right? It's funny I should ask. One of the first articles I ever read about Peter Thiel was this one in The Guardian. Thiel, who hopes to live to 120, is one of the more adventurous advocates of anti-aging therapies. One that caught his eye, although it was unclear if he has tried it, stems from a series of macabre experiments that found the muscles, brains, and organs of old mice were partially rejuvenated when they shared the blood of a young animal. You forgot about the blood stuff, didn't you? So I don't know if the part about Peter Thiel being interested in this is true. I honestly don't know much about the guy in general. I swear he just kept showing up. I looked into the mouse stuff, and that is true. And even crazier, after this research was released, a number of US firms started offering young blood transfusions for thousands of dollars. Right. So I think I had heard about this in passing some years ago. Like, I remember the blood boy from Silicon Valley. I remember the jokes about Jared Leto drinking the blood of children to keep his youthful appearance. I didn't realize at the time that the jokes were all kind of rooted in reality to a degree. It seems like the most famous of these firms is Ambrosia, who gave blood transfusions out of San Diego.
Real company, Ambrosia, had planned to launch in cities around the country, selling 2 liters of young blood plasma for $12,000.
The US FDA did eventually intervene, warning consumers that there was no proven clinical benefit of these transfusions. So it seems like this particular company probably didn't hurt too many people as long as they were transferring blood in the right way. But come on, people are crazy. There are definitely still people out there getting transfusions of young blood, regardless of how effective it is. And who knows what lengths they've gone to or what's really going on behind closed doors when the process is completely unregulated. You don't get a body like this at 50, whatever, without doing some wacky stuff like, I don't know, drinking kids' blood every now and then. It is worth mentioning that there are companies out there that are trying to put this research to use in the right way. Researchers at Levian, for example, are trying to isolate factors from the blood of young animals that could potentially be used to create medicines for diseases associated with aging, which leads me into my final topic. I think that what's been demonstrated throughout this video is that most people who research under or provide funding to companies that operate in the longevity industry are trying to do it for the right reasons, or at least pretending to try to do it for the right reasons. So I didn't want to end the video without touching on some of the points that were mentioned in the very first article I showed you at the beginning of this video. Is it worth it if you still die anyway? And is it worth it if immortality could get boring? I think these are decent points, but they are more easily refutable. Is it worth saving a drowning person today if they're just gonna die 40 years from now? Also, if immortality got boring, then there would still be ways to die. It just wouldn't easily be able to die of old age. It would just become a person's choice when to end it. There may be religious implications here, but most of the articles I've read tend to leave politics and religion out of the discussion. And I think that's smart, so I'm gonna do that too. The next question they ask is it worth it if poor people miss out? I think this is a really good and fair question. Bill Gates actually criticized other billionaires in a Reddit AMA when asked about the trend after Calico launched. He said, "It seems pretty egocentric while we still have malaria and TB for rich people to fund things so they can live longer. At the very least, when you have that much money, it does kind of come across as selfish or like you're trying to grow your individual wealth long after you would have normally been able to." I do hope that as more and more therapies come out to cure aspects of aging, that we figure out ways to make it more equitable, but I could also see how it's a cause for big concern. Now, finally, the real problem that this article presents, and the point that I think I agree with the most, is if humans routinely lived very long lives, this could reduce how adaptable our populations are and lead to social stagnation. Elon Musk is at least one billionaire who seems to believe in this sentiment as well. He says, "It is important for us to die because most of the time people don't change their mind, they just die." The original article from theconversation.com expands on this even more. They say even modest increases in life expectancy would radically increase population size. To avoid overpopulation, we need to reduce birth rates, which would drastically slow generational turnover. Many fields benefit from regular influx of young minds coming in and building on the work of predecessors. Even if the brains of older scientists remain sharp, their confirmation bias, which is a tendency to seek and interpret information in ways that confirm one's prior beliefs, could slow the uptake of new scientific theories. This kind of bias is evident in everyday society. As our brains are developing throughout childhood, we're really open to new ideas, but as those neuron pathways set, we literally become biologically less able to change our mind on certain things. So as the article says, it's easy to see how slowing generational turnover could delay the point at which we see and recognize and fix our own moral catastrophes. After all, it wasn't that long ago that we thought that homosexuality was bad and slavery was good. Some people still think those things. So who's to say what people 100 or 1,000 years from now are going to think about the moral compass of the people living today? So to take this a step further, recent research from 2021 actually shows that aging can be favored by natural selection. The very first forms of life, so think like bacteria that lived billions of years ago, likely didn't die, which means at some point, aging and dying became more advantageous to species than living forever. Thomas Fink, the man who ran this research, concluded that if immortality, not mortality, is a natural state of affairs, then maybe cell programming is what we need to get back to that natural state. So maybe that's the case. Maybe it is possible to live forever and our species are gonna figure it out one day. Or maybe we die for a reason. Whether it's just so young, fresh brains can bring new ideas to the table, or if it's some other reason I didn't even get to touch on in this video. For now, if you want to live a long life, it seems like the best things to do are all the classics. Drink a lot of water, eat right, and get a lot of sleep and exercise. Honestly, there was way more out there on the internet than I could have ever imagined when I first started making this video. And there were so many different directions that I could have taken. I don't know that I really even answered any of the questions that I set out to answer at the beginning of the video. I guess the main takeaway is that it does seem like most people are trying to do benevolent things with life extension research. There may be some exceptions to that rule and ethical bridges that we'll have to cross when we get there. Overall, I think I learned a lot of interesting things while making this video and had a lot of fun doing it. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, please like, and subscribe, and comment what your personal thoughts on the industry might be. Do you think it's all evil and selfish? Are you excited to see what comes next? Since there was so much to go into, I may do another video like this one in the future. So please let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. In the meantime, I have more ideas that hopefully won't take over a month to research and film. Right now, I do have to go. Tamagotchis can't feed themselves. That's what billionaires should be investing in.